In this video, I'll be ranking every single spell in Hearthstone Battlegrounds on a tier list. You'll basically see which spells you should never touch and which spells you should snap by every time you roll into it. Also, this tier list will only cover when the spells appear in the shop, because obviously if you're discovering them, the more expensive spell is usually the option. So we will only cover how you should evaluate them after you actually roll into the spell. Without further ado, let's get right into the tier list. Before I get into ranking all the tier 1 spells to tier 6 spells, I'll quickly explain what the tiers are. So we have the trash tier, which is like literally never buy this. We have the can be okay tier, which is like situationally a decent buy. We have the balanced tier, pretty average. We have the above average tier, and we have the super strong tier. You should buy this in a lot of situations and it's very good. So let's start with Alliance Flag. So I mean, Alliance, I feel like all the 1-cost spells are gonna be the same. They're just a 1-cost spell, buffs your board, you buy it if you have a gold, you don't buy it if you don't have a gold. So it's all gonna be pretty balanced. Enchanted Lasso, same thing. Turn 1, if you have a 1-cost hero power, you just buy it. Fortify is pretty good because it also gives taunt, so it's better for late game, but it's worse for early game. So it's still pretty balanced. Recruit a trainee, balance. Tavern Coin. Okay, Tavern Coin is a bit different because Tavern Coin you literally should always buy because of a card called Ensorcelled Fungus. But in addition, I rate it way above all the other spells because if I hit a coin in my shop, I'm like super happy about it because it just makes my future turns way more flexible. Like you can basically store the gold. Like let's say you have a 2-cost hero power like Rat King hero power and then you buy a coin. Coin is one of the best spells you can get because in the future you can play much more efficiently. Banana is pretty balanced. You just use it for a buff. It's fine. Apples, I would say apples can be okay. I'm pretty much never happy about rolling apples because by the time where apples sees its use, it's pretty much turn 3, which is like at the best it's gonna be 1 gold for +2, +4. Then sometimes you buy some pretty trash units to get apples value. I don't know, it's not that good. I would say it's the worst of the 1-cost spells. We're starting to get into the 2-cost spells. Careful Investment should be in the S tier. Like Careful Investment, I don't think you should ever skip it or like you should rarely skip it. It's just so strong. It's 1 gold for 2 gold. What can you say? Like a lot of the times it makes your next turn really good. For instance, if you have a Careful Investment turn 3, turn 4 you can suddenly level and also buy a unit where you couldn't do that with any other play. So yeah, Careful Investment is super strong. Next up we have Chef's Choice is in the A tier. Chef's Choice is really good because it's really good in the late game or the mid game because you can choose the target. Like if you want to cycle elementals, you just quickly get elemental for 1 gold. Is really good. It's really good in the early game because it enables a lot of synergies for only 2 gold. Like let's say you have Electric Synthesizer plus Chef's Choice, you can target the synthesizer with the Chef's Choice and suddenly the synthesizer is an amazing buy. Chef's Choice honestly might be S tier. I'm starting to convince myself there's not that many situations where you would skip Chef's Choice, and even if you're playing like a beast comp like Beatles comp, you should pretty much always buy Chef's Choice because at the worst case you're burning 1 gold, but best case like you just get a core card for your comp. Like it's a super good card. Cry Foul on the other hand is less good than Chef's Choice because you have less control over the minion you get. So I would say Cry Foul is pretty balanced. It could be very good, but it's just balanced. Hasty Excavation. So Hasty Excavation is pretty balanced. It's pretty much an auto pick turn 5 and before. But turn 6 onwards, it's not worth 3 HP. The reason why turn 5 and before you want to buy it like pretty aggressively, it just makes your curve much more flexible. You're less locked in your curve. But turn 6 and onwards, you're pretty much spending your gold to roll and instead of using it to fill out your board. So the 1 gold is worth less. Shiny Ring. Shiny Ring is definitely not a spell you buy too much, so I'm gonna put it in the C tier. It's an okay buff on like turn 5, turn 6 because you usually have like 5 to 6 minions on those turns, but even then it's starting to fall off, and before turn 5 you don't have enough minions for Shiny Ring to be good. So yeah, it's not often where Shiny Ring is a good spell, and it doesn't really scale well into the mid game, late game either. Like you're pretty much never gonna buy it. Lantern Light is a pretty balanced spell. It's 1 gold +4, +3. Pretty decent on those, on like the turn 4, 5, 6 type turns. Turn 8 onward, probably you should never buy it, but it's a good spell. It's an okay one. Balanced. Strike Oil. I'm a bit torn about Strike Oil. It could be balanced. It could be C tier. You don't buy it that often. You only buy it if you like have to. You're never really happy about buying Strike Oil unless you're exactly Nobundo. That's the only hero where you like need a Strike Oil early game and it's like super broken. But every other hero, I think I have to put a C tier. And I know there's a lot of oil fans out there. It's really not that good because basically you buy the Strike Oil, you lose every fight. You have to play from behind and you don't want to play from behind, okay? Like Lantern Light, you buy it, your board is strong, you can level more aggressively as a result, like the Strike Oil. And next up we have our first trash tier. It's not even close, like it's Giga trash tier. I have no idea why they nerfed it in the first place. It's Echoing Roar. So this spell is so bad. I don't think I've ever bought it in this entire patch. It's only okay if you generate it from that 2/2 dragon, because then it's not a 3 gold Echoing Roar, it's a 2 gold Echoing Roar and it works with brand and stuff. But as a spell to buy, you literally never buy it. There's not even an exception. It's just never good. The next spell we have here is Fleeting Vigor. Fleeting Vigor is good if you have like 1 gold left over in the turn. It's like pretty good tempo for the fight. It's only good on like turn 6, turn 7. You only buy it if you think you need the tempo to like save HP. So next up we have Gemday. Gemday isn't that good of a spell. It's good if you're exactly committed Quobors, and even if you're exactly committed Quobors, you usually have like a Gemrat to generate a Gemday every turn. So as a spell you roll into, you can only buy it if you're committed Quobors, otherwise it's terrible. And even then you probably don't need it that much. Like it's just nice to buy for 1 gold, but it's not even that impressive. So I'm gonna put Gemday in C tier. You're not gonna buy it too much. Natural Blessing, kind of same thing. You probably shouldn't be buying this spell too much. It's occasionally decent for stabilization, but at the same time it's kind of rare for it to be useful. It also costs 3 gold, so your economy takes a big hit if you buy Natural Blessing. Alright, next up, Planar Telescope. Telescope could be balanced here because it costs 4, which is quite a bit, but I do buy it a lot. And whenever you're like committed to like a Beatles comp or like a Quobor comp or something, it's pretty good to buy. So honestly, I might just take Telescope, put it A tier, because I do buy it after I'm committed to a comp, and it's pretty nice to look for those core pieces. In the late game, not really in the mid game. In the mid game, 4 gold discover a minion is usually too expensive unless you have like only Nagas on your board or something, and then you're likely to get something good. But yeah, it's a pretty above average spell. Also above average is Overconfidence. Overconfidence is pretty good. It's not as good as Careful Investment because it's a bit risky money. Like you might just get 0 gold out of it. Even if you think you like only have a 50% chance to win your next fight, it's still worth it to buy it. You should only not buy it when you're like pretty confident that you'll lose. If you're like pretty shaky on the next fight, or if you're very confident on the next fight, it's a really good buy. Robust Evolution. Robust Evolution is a pretty okay spell. You know, the only use case for Robust Evolution for the Tavern tier up effect, you pretty much don't care about the stats retaining effect ever, but for 1 gold, seeing a minion of a higher Tavern tier is pretty worth it. Pretty okay buy if you want to try to high roll a direction or so. Yeah, sorry for all the adjusting I have to do, but yeah, next spell we have is Staff of Enrichment. This spell is pretty bad. The only case where I can think of you buying it and it's okay is if you go 3-on-3 and this is your first spell in the shop, or maybe if you have a False Implicator. But I don't know, it's just like it's occasionally good, but it could, like, I could see it being trashed here as well. Like, I mean, at the same time, demons are really bad, so that's like more of a reason never to buy it. I'm just gonna put it trashed here. I don't remember the last time I thought Staff of Enrichment was good, so yeah, just don't buy it and you'll be completely okay, honestly. Next up we have Time Management. So Time Management is okay. It could be okay. 4 gold for +2/+2 buff is not actually that good. So either it's like you don't have a full board, so it's not worth buying, or by the time you have a full board, the +2/+2 on your board is not worth 4 gold anymore. So for example, there's like, what's that card? Inspiring Underdog. Like that's 2 gold for +2/+1 to your whole board. The Fireballer spell, get a Fireballer and a Snowballer, that's also 2 gold for +2/+1 on your board. So 4 gold for +2/+2 on your board is pretty expensive. And the +4/+4 on your board is the better option usually. I mean, there's downside to it, obviously, like it might cost you HP. It's pretty rare that the +4/+4 to your board is going to be pickable. Again, it's really good on the Bundo, but that's about it. So I'll put it in the C tier. Tricky Trouser. Tricky Trouser, simply a utility spell. I'm just gonna put it balanced. It's just if you want the untaunt, it's good. If you don't, it's not, and that's about it. Also, it's fine as a 1 mana spell to taunt a minion, so it's just a utility spell, which is not bad. Dude, I have to adjust this so much because I can't see the bottom of the screen, man. Okay, hopefully this is the last time I have to adjust the formatting of the tier list. Anyways, next up we have Boon of Beetles. Boon of Beetles is a very, very broken spell right now because you're either playing Beetles, so you're spending 1 mana on 2 gigantic Beetles, which is like way too strong. Or if you're playing an endgame like APM Pirates or APM Elementals, the Beetles can pop Divine Shields or just like protect your core units. Or if you're playing like a Chameleon, the Beetles kind of makes it so that your Chameleon is guaranteed to proc. So I don't know, I feel like Beetles is kind of a snap buy in the endgame nowadays. Like Beetles is definitely an S tier spell. The other spell that is S tier, I pretty much always buy it. This spell, is it called Boundless Potential? Yeah, Boundless Potential. So both of the options, discovering a spell or discovering a minion, are very good. I would say in the mid game, when you're either looking for core units, looking for direction, you should discover a minion on like Tavern 5, Tavern 6, whatever. And in the late game, when you have your direction and you're just looking to improve your utility or like high roll harder, then you should discover a spell. This spell is very flexible, definitely S tier. Always buy it. Cloning Conch. Cloning Conch, I don't think is that good. I pretty much only play it when it's like I generate it. Get 2 random Murlocs, like does anyone even care? It's not like there's Bream counter so you want to generate Murlocs anymore. Honestly, if you roll into it in the shop, it legitimately might be F tier. Like I don't think you should ever buy it. Like maybe if you're committed Murlocs, but also Murlocs, like you're probably just gonna get 2 random Murlocs that you don't care about, so it's just -2 gold. It's probably trash tier. Next up we have Defender's Right. Defender's Right is purely a stabilization spell. It could be used as a 3-cost taunter if you really need a taunt, but most of the time you just use it as a 3 gold +8/+8 and it's like fine. Like you take it, you put on Divine Shield for stabilization and move on with your life. Could be okay. So next up, Gem Confiscation. So Gem Confiscation is a very important spell for Quillboars. It kind of makes Quillboars a lot better. Like without Confiscation, the tribe would be much less flexible, would lack a lot of utility, but with Gem Confiscation, you really want to roll into it to gem transfer onto a cleave or something, and that's part of the reason why Quillboars are so good. So yeah, Confiscation is really good. Guzzle the Goop, you should buy it like pretty rarely, but it could be good. Like if you have a dragon opener and you roll into Guzzle a Goop on like turn 7, turn 8, it could be good, but at the same time, 4 gold's a lot. It's at best C tier because of how rare it is to buy. Hired Headhunter, definitely above average spell. Snap buy whenever you have a brand on your board. Discovering a minion for 3 gold can really never be that bad, especially if it's a battle cry, so it's guaranteed to do something. Buy this spell a lot, A tier. Marauder Contract, also A tier. Snap buy pretty much every time you're playing Pirate, but even if you're not playing Pirate, it's a good spell because most of the time you're just gonna get like a Gambler or the 3/4 Pirate and you're gonna get your money back, so pretty amazing spell, honestly. Pretty above average. Not snap pick by any means. Like if you're playing Beetle Beast, you're never gonna buy this. Menagerie Jug, same boat as Defender's Right, purely a stabilization spell, which isn't bad, but it's only gonna have like 2 turns where it's okay to buy, and then after that you pretty much never buy it. Pretty balanced. Spice Scale Sushi Roll. Okay, Spice Scale Sushi Roll is A tier if not S tier. Honestly, I might just put it S tier because most of the time you buy it, you're not even playing Nagas, so it's basically 2 gold at a shot for Glow Scale Divine Shield, which is already worth it. But not only that, most of the time you're getting your gold back, okay? So if you get the Slippery Slider Spellcraft, you're getting your gold back. If you get the Warden of Old Spellcraft, you're getting your gold back. If you get the 4/5 Naga Spellcraft, you're getting your gold back. If you get the Silava Spellcraft, you're getting your gold back. So even if you're not playing Nagas, it's pretty much always just a free spell that has the chance of getting you Glow Scale Shield, which makes you a lot stronger for the next fight. So I buy this spell pretty much always. Next up, Scavenge for Parts. Spell is nothing impressive. You pretty much only buy it if you're playing mechs. Yeah, that's it. Like if you're playing mechs, you buy it. Otherwise, because there's no utility drone, because there's no beatboxer, it kind of fell off a bit. Next up, we have Temperature Shift. Temperature Shift is a pretty good spell if you're... Honestly, I'm just going to put it A tier. It's a really good spell if you're playing elementals, but even if you're not playing elementals, let's say you roll into this on turn 6, turn 7. It's a 4 gold for a 2/1 buff to your whole board or 1/2 buff to your whole board, which is pretty acceptable stabilization. Basically, high upside if you're already cycling a couple of ballers, could get really good really fast. Really good with elementals because it just counts for 2 elementals played and it buffs your board. Toxic Tumbleweed. Pretty much purely a late game spell. You're never going to buy this before the late game, but if you need to go all in, it's a pretty decent spell. There are some use cases where it's good, even if you have a full board, like if you're playing Illidan or Akazamak or something, but most of the time it's just an all-in spell. Honestly, I'm just gonna put it C tier because you're not too happy about it most of the time. Okay, I'm pretty sure we all know where armor is gonna go, right? Armor is for sure S tier. Armor, every time you don't have any armor left, you should probably buy this spell. It is so strong. If you roll into the spell, sometimes you can just get 2 to 3 placements solely because of that, right? You face the high roller, you're at 12 HP, you really need that armor. You save like so many placements because you roll into it. Even if you're at like 26 or something, you buy the armor, suddenly you take 15, you're still alive. Next up, we have Butchering. I always get told I mispronounce this card, but I could not care less. Anyways, it's trash. They removed Morose, which was like the only butchering target. I mean, now you can use it on Mummifier, but it's pretty rare. And even then, it's not even that good because it's a tier 3. So yeah, very trash spell. You can only buy it if you're playing Attack Sale Undead. And even if you're playing Attack Sale Undead, it's not even that good. F tier for sure. Mutinous spell. I would say pretty balanced. It's pretty obvious the situations where you should buy it. If you have like a 50-50 that you're planning on selling but you roll Mutinous instead, pretty good. It could be good with Nagas to like capture temporary spellcraft effects, but I would say balanced. Also balanced is this Contracted Corpse spell. It was okay. It was probably above average at the Tavern 4. I don't really know why they nerfed the spell, but they did, so it's pretty balanced now. It's like when you get to Tavern 5, most of the time your board is already full, so you don't need to fill out your board furthermore. Corrupted Cupcake goes in the C tier. It could be okay, but 4 gold for this effect is really pretty mediocre. Like, I would only buy it if I discounted it through like Archimond. Like, that's the only acceptable time to buy it. As a 4 gold spell, just avoid it. Even if you have a buff shop, just avoid it. And it's pretty hard to buff your shop nowadays, so honestly it might be F tier, but it's saved purely by the fact that it can be discounted through Archimond, and then it's pretty good. Okay, Eyes of the Earth Mother. The Eyes of the Earth Mother is for sure A tier. A lot of comps really need eyes to like excel. For example, Beetles or Goldrin. Eyesing a Macaw is very common, and Macaw is in a lot of comps, but you don't only have to use it on Macaw. You can use it on like Caretaker for Overflow Undead, maybe a Nubrak. I mean, usually spending 6 gold to golden a minion, if that minion is a part of your core pieces, it's worth it. So Eyes a lot of the time is going to be worth it. Next up, we have Golden Touch. Golden Touch as a spell you roll into is pretty balanced. It's mostly used to either force a Golden Titus, but you need a lot of gold to do that. So let's say you roll into Golden Touch and then you roll into Titus. You can buy out the shop besides the Titus and force the Golden Titus. But you can also just use it to YOLO and discover a 6-drop. That use case is not too bad either. So yeah, Golden Touch as a spell you discover, obviously it's S tier, it's one of the best. but as a spell you roll into, it's pretty balanced. Saloon's Finest, also pretty balanced. You're not gonna use it that often. Like if you're playing Beetles comp and you really need that Beetle spell, you buy it. If you're playing Clover comp and you really need that gem confiscation, you buy it. So yeah, it's basically just 2 gold for way more likely that you roll into a spell you need, but that's about it. New hero power is S tier. New hero power is so good. You pretty much always buy it when you don't need your hero power anymore. So Reno or Zarek or basically half the heroes. It's just a snap buy because you'll upgrade your hero power for the rest of the game. It could be super broken like Galilix or Reno or Zarek. And even if it's not super broken, like let's say you get Brukan, it's still like a pretty decent hero power for the rest of the game. Like for sure worth 3 gold. So yeah, super strong. Upper hand can be okay tier. Like I know you buy it a lot if you have like in those like top 4 situations, but that's about it. Like you're never going to buy it in the mid game. You're never really that happy to buy it either. Like it's kind of just like a last ditch effort. What if I hit their big unit? But you're not really happy. Like it's not a very consistent strategy. Upper hand's a really good spell if you have infinite gold, of course, but yeah, can be okay tier, but you're not gonna buy it that often. Okay, Azurite Empowerment, the more that I think about it, Azurite Empowerment is just trash tier. Sorry, it's not very good. I don't think I've ever bought Azurite Empowerment for 4 gold. If you roll into it on Tavern 6, what you need is not 4/4 to your entire board. What you need is 6 drop. And I mean, it's okay to discover, but even then you just want to win the game at that point. Like +4/+4 to your whole board is just stabilization, but chances are if you level to 6, stabilization is not what you need. Okay, you just want to win the game. If stabilization is what you need, you probably should not have level to 6 in the first place. So Azurite Empowerment, it's a trash spell to buy. Fandrel's Fortune. Fandrel's Fortune is not a great spell to buy either, but it's in the C tier only because of one reason, and that reason is Nether Construct. So there are some lobbies where if you play Fandrel Fortune, you are guaranteed that minion, and in those lobbies Fandrel's Fortune is buyable, but that's like pretty rare, and that's like the only use case. You're pretty much never buying it otherwise. So yeah, next up we have Wisdom Ball. So Wisdom Ball, I would say it's either B tier or A tier. The thing about Wisdom Ball, it's just a win more spell. If you're winning, it's really good to buy because then you can win more. You're winning, you have a brand, it has a pretty likely chance of golding your brand. If you're not winning, then it's not that good of a spell to buy. There is definitely strength to converting a top 4 to a first, and Wisdom Ball definitely helps you do that. And for that reason, I'm gonna put it A tier. Just know that if you're looking for direction or something, or if you're not winning, you probably shouldn't buy this spell. I'll put it balanced here though. Hamul is honestly an A tier spell. Hamul is really good because chances are if you're level 6, you're already committed to a comp. Like let's say you're committed Groundbreaker or you're committed Cold Wars, you pretty much always buy the Hamul spell if you're committed to comp. It's not guaranteed to be good, but you still should always buy it. It's not as strong as all the S tier spells. Like all the S tier spells I'm literally always buying no matter the circumstance. Hamul, it could miss. It's still a really good spell to buy most of the time. Next up we have Perfect Vision. Set a minion spell stats to 2020. Honestly, the only use case for this spell is using it on a Titus, but even then it's not even that impactful, so I don't know. I don't think the spell is very good. There's no beatbox so you can't use the spell on the shop. Like I'm trying to think of the last time I bought this spell and I legitimately can't think of it. Like maybe you use it on a Leroy. Maybe I should put it C tier. Like it probably does have some use case, but I'll put it F tier for now. And the last spell we have, I don't know what this one is called. Is it called the Road Less Traveled? Anyways, the Road Less Traveled is pretty B tier to me. You never choose the random 6 drop out of it. Every time I've played the spell, it's always been 2 random 5s, and 2 random 5s for 4 gold could be okay, especially if you're playing like an APM comp, like a brand comp, because a lot of 5 drop battle cries are in the game. It's not that consistent. It's like okay. Okay, so this is the final spell tier list. Just remember, this is the tier list for when you roll into the spell, not when you discover a spell. That's completely different. Yeah, I'll be doing a minion tier list later, so look forward to that. That will be on a much larger scale than this, so this will kind of just be a 2-part rank every card in Hearthstone Battlegrounds series. Have a nice one, everyone.